while you're working so that it can stiffen up and be the same moisture level when you attach it. Having this at the right moisture level now is really important. You may need to stop and take a break if this is too soft. If it's too soft to support the weight of an object, of some clay protruding out of it. I'm still using my slip here. I'm dipping my fork in my slip, and this is going to come way in. Smooth it out real good on the inside. Really want that to come in. It's going to get thinner. And then I can get this level. Once you get real skinny like this, it seems kind of silly to just stack a bunch of tiny coils there. So I'm going to show you a way that you can work a little bit more efficiently. Got a little piece of clay here that I'm going to use. And this is going to be, looking at my image, this spout is going to be about almost as tall as the body, not quite as tall. And it's going to get wider, so I'm just going to try and make a nice clean shape. And then I'm going to take a pencil and really carefully shove it straight through. A little uneven, but we'll make it work. Rolling it and just stretching it open a little bit. Now I'll get my wooden modeling tool in there and tore right there. That's okay. I'm gonna just compress it. Add a little clay right there. Compressing is the most important thing. And then I'm going to score it. Score this. Add a little clay. A little bit of a thin spot there. Score it. Add a little bit of clay. Check it as I'm working on it. And yeah, that's definitely going in the right direction. Trying to get this pretty thin. Try to get it even. Got a little uneven. by kind of working it with your thumb. Stretching it with my thumb, thinning it, and by working it like that with my thumb, I can make it kind of a nice, graceful shape. Looks like I got a little kind of seam happening in there, so I'm gonna smooth it out. Maybe I'll need to add a little more clay in there. That's nice, I like that. Maybe I'll cut this a little bit so they line up nicely. Sometimes it's nice if it has a little overlap, and that can help it attach better. If it's just sitting right on there, it'll probably be okay. Yeah, that'll be okay. But a little overlap can give it a stronger connection. Work it with the rib, smooth it together, make it look like they belong together. They are one, they become one, flowing seamlessly into one another. Eventually I'm gonna cut it at an angle, but I want my two other spouts to be at the exact same angle. That's going to help kind of create some more unity in this form. So I'll just leave it for now, and then once I have my other two, then I'll cut them at the same time. I'll make these spouts the same way, and this clay is a little bit leather hard, still wet, but getting towards leather hard. And so it should connect well to my slightly stiff pot. And then maybe I'll make my last one at the same time, just to make sure that they really look similar, that they look like they really belong together. And I want them to get progressively smaller as they go down. So I'll get a smaller piece of clay. Carefully poking that pencil in there. Roll it a bit. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's about what I want. And then I'll open it up a little bit so it transitions into the body of the vase, and then open it up so it has a little bit of flare on the top. Yeah, it should be kind of close to give enough room. These are kind of in relationship to one another, so yeah, it does need to be quite tight on this guy. And I want it to be a little taller, so maybe I'll add a little bit of clay right here. Smooth that. There we go. So I added that little tail on there so that it connects better. Then I'll cut a little bit off of here. last one will be down there. This end's a little thicker, so maybe this will be where it attaches to the pot. And then same thing, I'll probably add a little bit of clay there. I like to roll coils on my forearm, like little tiny ones. It works really well. Cut that a little bit more. And might need a little more room for this one. I don't want it to look like it's kind of hanging off the edge. I want it to look like it's well incorporated into the form, so maybe this one moves up. Don't want them to look too crowded either, but I think that'll do. Yeah, those look about good to me. So now it's good to look over the top and see if they line up. Do they need to move back? So once you know where you want them to be, we can trace them, and then we need to poke a hole. We need to poke a hole, and then that's where it's going to attach, all around there. I'll score that and add some slip. Score it and add some slip. This one's going to go right here, and I want to really make sure to smooth it well there before I add the other spout, because it'll be hard to get in there after that other spout is there. You can use a pencil to get in there and smooth it, or my chopstick tool with the sanded edge, this edge, the pointy edge, whatever tool can reach in there. Smooth that together. You can kind of compress it a little bit in there. Needle tool. Test it a little bit. Feels pretty good. Never too late to make adjustments, because the most important thing is that it looks good, that your aesthetic impulses are telling you that things are where they should be, that it is a compelling, interesting, and beautiful composition. Add a little coil in there, give it a little more strength. So good to compress that first. I compressed it first, getting inside of there, and then I'll add another coil for strength and also to get a cleaner transition. Maybe just aesthetically I want to fill this in a little bit more. Alright, I think I'm ready to add my third spout. Maybe I'll move this hole up just a little bit. Just don't want it to look like that spout is getting crowded off of the side of the vase. Smooth it together. Add a little bit more clay in there. Smooth it together. Now it looks like this could use a little bit more clay in there to fill it in aesthetically. It'll also help reinforce it. Fill that in a little spot right there. I'm about ready to cut these, so I'm going to cut them all at an angle, kind of like that. In fact, maybe this needs to go up a little bit more. You know, one thing here, actually, this lip is getting really kind of dry, and rather than scoring it and adding slip, one thing I really encourage people to do is to really reactivate that surface. And by that, I mean, if I add water, so I have a sponge that I just moistened, and then really scoring it, now I'm actually creating slip on the surface of the clay. And that way I'm really reactivating the clay so that the slip is integrated into the clay. If you put slip onto a surface that's too dry, sometimes it just doesn't really soak in and you're not making a good connection. So that's really the best way to attach anything, is to reactivate the surface. And that mostly goes for, you know, when you're at least a couple days in on your project and it's begun to stiffen up. Mark it. Always good to measure twice, cut once. I'm going to clean up these lips because the lips talk. They tell us about the rest of the pot. They tell us if it's a nice, thin, aesthetically pleasing, clean pot, or if it's a sloppy, poorly constructed pot. So you want a real clean lip on there. And I moistened these real good. I kind of work it around with my fingers. Timing is crucial on this because this is stiff enough to hold the weight, but now I've re-moistened the lips so that they're much more shapeable. This has kind of an odd lumpiness to it right there, so I'm going to cut a little bit of that off, just so the whole thing feels kind of on the same plane. Don't want to spend too much time on one of them because I want them to all sort of develop together. Good time to take a step back from it and look at it and just make them try and look like successively smaller versions of the same thing. Just wet my fingers, do some shaping. Gotta open this up a little bit more. It's a little thick, but it also could be a little taller. So I'm just gonna try and stretch it upward. It's important to work on different parts all at the same time, kind of working your way around the piece, not spending too much time in one area, because the sculpture, the vase, is a sum of its parts, and you want all those parts working together. You want them to all create a unity, create a harmony. Okay, now that I got the rims, the lips mostly figured out, I'm gonna do some more smoothing, and then I'll come back to the lips at the end and just do a final kind of smooth out touch up. Some people like to smooth with a sponge, and that's okay. that can work. Just be careful not to get it too wet. And what happens if you smooth a lot with a sponge is that you remove a lot of the soft clay, leaving the thicker particles. So you're kind of washing away those finer particles and leaving the more coarse particles, and it can get kind of a sandy texture, and that's not terrible, but just be aware. Now I can use a paintbrush and clean up some of these details. Still looks like I could put a little clay in there. Now I can take a look at it and see if it looks straight. Looks like it could lean just a little bit to the left there. Make sure you look all the way down at the bottom and clean it up down there. And then one of the last things I want to do is address the rim again. And just kind of work it around. And now I'm done building it. It's still pretty moist, so I'll let it stiffen up just a little bit before I put the plastic on it, because I don't want to mess up those lips and those necks that are so fragile now as they're wet. And then I'll wrap it up tight, and then I'm going to do some sgraffito work on it. I've got some slip. You could use an underglaze for sgraffito if you don't have slip. Build up a few layers and I'll scratch through it and do some surface decoration.